The air was thick with heat, dust, and quiet cruelty. On the outer rim of Port Valona, trading station between three systems, people gathered not for trade, but for shame. An alien auction. Slaves. Bidders stood in silence as weak, hungry. Creatures were dragged into the center stage. Chains clanked. Lights flickered. And from the shadows, a tall human man watched without blinking. His name was Elias. Vance, former soldier. Ex-commander. A man who had seen too much war and now just wanted silence. He stood alone, leaning against a cracked wall, arms crossed. Dark coat covering old battle scars. Then she was brought out, a small, thin alien girl, pale skin with a blue tint. Hair like silken silver, messy and long. Her hands trembled. Her ankles were bruised from too tight restraints. Around her neck, a glowing collar blinked red, a signal that she was untrained and disobedient. The crowd stepped back. No offers. The auctioneer barked. This one's been ... difficult. Beaten, but not broken. A rare species could make a fine servant with enough discipline. The girl's golden eyes scanned the crowd. Desperate. Scared, no one met her gaze. She didn't cry, she didn't speak. She just waited like a broken bird waiting for another cage. Someone laughed cruelly. Throw her back in, she's not worth feeding. Elias stepped forward. One step, then another. Whispers followed him like ghosts. A human? Is he serious? That one's not even pretty, just scared and useless. Elias ignored them. He walked to the front of the auction stage. The girl flinched when his shadow fell over her. She dropped her eyes to the ground. He looked at her. Quiet. Long name? He asked. The auctioneer smirked. She doesn't speak. If she had a name. It's long gone now. Elias nodded once. I'll take her. Silence fell. Even the auctioneer blinked in surprise. Excuse me? I said I'll take her. Elias repeated calmly, pulling out a silver credit chip and placing it on the table. No collar. No bindings. I want her released now. She's dangerous, the auctioneer warned. Elias's voice grew cold. Seen war. I know what danger looks like. This isn't it. The auctioneer shrugged, took the chip, and pressed a few buttons. The collar unlatched with a hiss. The girl gasped and clutched her neck like she hadn't felt her own. Skin in years. Elias reached out a hand. She didn't move. He didn't force her. Your choice. He said softly. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then slowly she stepped. Down from the platform, barefoot and shaking. She kept her head low, but followed him out of the auction house, away from the lights, the whispers, and the cold eyes. Outside, the city lights faded into dark sands. Elias led her to a small transport, parked near the edge of the cliffs. The wind howled across the rock, and the stars blinked coldly above. He opened the door for her. She hesitated. No tricks, he said. She entered, the door closed behind them inside the ship. The air was warm, clean, a soft couch, a blanket, cup of water. The girl sat like she expected to be punished. Elias didn't speak for a while. He set the ship to autopilot, then returned and sat across from her. You're safe now, he said. She didn't believe him. He saw it in her eyes. She watched every move he made, waiting for the pain, waiting for commands, waiting for the next collar, the next chain. But none came. Elias leaned back, hands behind his head. You don't have to do anything. Not tonight. Sleep. Rest. The room on the left is yours now. Still silence. After a long time, she spoke. One word. Shaky. Dry. Why? He opened his eyes. Why? What? She looked at him. For the first time, she really looked. Why me? Elias stared out the small window at the stars, because no one else would. The ship moved quietly through space. The stars outside the window blinked slowly, like they were watching her. The girl sat on the edge of a soft bed in the room Elias had shown her. She still hadn't touched the blanket. She hadn't taken a single sip from the cup of clean water on the table. Her hands stayed in her lap, folded tight, nails digging into her skin. She didn't understand. No orders, no yelling, no collar. Just silence. Was this some new kind of control? Or maybe she was already dead, and this was the final trick her mind had made before the end. Elias sat alone in the front of the ship, eyes on the stars. He didn't look back. He didn't check on her. He didn't watch through a camera or speak through a speaker. He gave her space, time, and freedom. But even freedom, when it comes to fast, feels like a storm. In her room, the girl stood up. Her knees shook. She walked to the mirror on the wall. Slowly, she touched her own face. Then her neck. No collar, no shocks. She turned around. Nothing was locked. No guards, no cage. Still, she didn't believe it. She walked quietly down the hall, expecting alarms, locked doors, angry voices. But she reached the main cabin where Elias sat. And he didn't even turn his head. "I don't sleep much," he said calmly, not looking at her. "But the bed's yours." She opened her mouth, then stopped. "I don't serve?" she asked softly. Elias finally looked at her. His eyes weren't cruel. "Just tired." "No," he said. "You don't." She shook her head, confused. "But you bought me." "I bought your freedom," Elias corrected. "I didn't buy you." Tears gathered in her eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. "I don't understand." "I know," Elias said gently. "You don't have to. Not tonight." She stood there, silent for a long time. Then she asked, "What's your name?" "Elias. Why are you kind to me?" He looked back at the stars, because kindness is stronger than chains. She didn't know what to say after that. She turned away and returned to the room. This time, she sat on the bed again. But now, her hands were not so tight. She looked at the blanket. It was soft, warm, carefully, like it might bite her. She pulled it over her legs. She whispered, "Kindness is stronger than chains." And for the first time in years, she fell asleep without fear. The next morning came slowly. She opened her eyes. The light was soft. The air was warm, and no one was shouting. She sat up, heart pounding, thinking maybe it had all been a dream. But the water was still there. The blanket still covered her. And the door, still open, freedom. Real freedom. But what was she supposed to do with it? She stepped out of the room and saw Elias in the kitchen, cooking something that smelled strange but good. He wore no armor today, just a simple shirt and worn pants. He saw her and nodded once. "Good morning." She didn't know how to answer. No one had ever wished her a good morning. She whispered, "Good morning," he smiled. "You're learning." He pointed at the table. "Sit if you like." "I made food." She hesitated, sitting at a table. Eating without permission. Was that allowed? Elias didn't push. He just kept cooking. She finally sat down. He placed a plate in front of her. "Something hot. Yellow, soft. What is it?" she asked. "Eggs," Elias said. "Scrambled." "Try it." She took a bite, then another. Her eyes widened. It was delicious. She ate quickly, almost too fast. Elias noticed, but said nothing. He just let her eat. When she was done, she looked at him with quiet fear. "Do I have to work now?" she asked. "Clean? Cook?" "Something." Elias shook his head. "No," he said. "You don't have to do anything. You're free now." She stared at him. but I don't know how to be free." He looked at her kindly. "Then we'll figure it out together." That night, she sat near the window and watched the stars again. She thought about the other slaves still wearing collars, still crying, still hoping someone would do what Elias did. She held the cup of warm tea he gave her. It felt good in her hands. And slowly she began to cry. But this time it wasn't from pain. It was from something else, hope. The days passed slowly aboard the ship. For the first time in her life, the girl still without a name was not afraid every hour. She explored the ship quietly, like a bird learning to stretch its wings. Elias never followed her, never gave her commands. He answered her questions when she asked, but never pushed her to speak, but he watched, carefully, respectfully, and he noticed things. The way her hand always went to her neck when she heard sudden sounds. The way she looked over her shoulder when walking down a hallway. The way she touched the old scars on her back when she thought no one was watching. He didn't ask. Not yet. But something about those scars worried him one quiet evening as the ship glided through unclaimed space. She stood outside the med bay, staring at the scanner table. Elias came up beside her. "You okay?" She didn't look at him. "What? Is this room?" "It's for healing," he said softly. "Medical scans, first aid, wound treatment." She nodded. Then, with a trembling voice, she whispered, Can it tell me what's inside me?" Elias paused. "You wanted to?" "Yes." She took a deep breath. "Okay." Minutes later, she lay on the scanner table. Elias stood behind a glass wall, watching the screen light up with data. As the machine ran across her small, fragile body, red marks appeared. Symbols burned beneath her skin. Not normal scars. Not natural. He leaned closer, and his stomach dropped. When the scan finished, she sat up slowly. What did it say? Elias didn't answer immediately. He just stared at the display. Finally, he spoke. "You've been marked." "Marked?" she asked, confused. He turned the screen toward her. There it was, brand burned deep under her skin, hidden beneath flesh, glowing faintly. Alien symbols, circular and sharp like knives. Her hands shook. "What does it mean?" "It's a code," Elias said. "It belongs to the Sorak Syndicate." She froze. Her breathing changed. "You know that name?" Elias asked gently. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Yes, the Sorak Syndicate. A criminal empire feared across 7 systems, traders in weapons, drugs, and slaves. They branded their property with hidden mark scanners could read them, and the code would show ownership. If the Syndicate saw this mark, they would hunt her, reclaim her, or kill her. "They'll come for me," she said, eyes wide. "With panic? They always do." "Not here," Elias said calmly. "Not on my ship, not while I'm breathing." She looked at him. "You don't understand. They're everywhere. Rich, powerful. They'll track me. They never stop." Elias didn't blink. "Then they'll have to learn what it feels like to lose." She got up and backed away. No, you don't get it. They own me. Even now on paper, in systems, in space, they still own me. Elias stepped forward, but not too close. "Not anymore," he said. She shook her head. "You don't know what they do to people like me. If they find me, they'll make me wish I never ran." Elias's voice hardened. "If they come, I'll be ready." She looked at him with watery eyes. "Why would you protect me? Why risk your life for someone like me?" He walked closer, placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Because you're not someone like anything. You're just someone. You deserve better." That night, she couldn't sleep. She stared at the mark on the scan screen for hours. The past was rising again like a storm. But this time, she wasn't in chains. She was free. And she had a choice in the cockpit. Elias sat with his old pistol on the table, checking it quietly. The ship was silent. Then footsteps. She came in, holding a blanket over her shoulders. "I want to tell you my name," she said softly. Elias looked up. She swallowed. "They took it from me. But I remember what my mother used to call me, before they took me away." He waited. "Laura," she whispered. "My name is Laura." Elias nodded. "Then Laura it is." She gave a small smile. Her first real smile. "I want to fight back," she said. "Not yet," Elias said. "First, we make sure you're safe." "But they're coming, aren't they?" Elias looked out at the stars, double quotes, "Yes. And when they do, they won't expect a girl who stopped running." Asterisk, the ship flew slowly toward the outer edges of human space. No warships followed. No alarms, just stars, silence, and peace. For now, inside the ship, Laura sat by the window. Her knees were pulled to her chest. She was wrapped in a soft blanket, a warm cup of tea in her hand. She wasn't shaking anymore. Elias sat across from her at the table, working quietly on a metal panel from one of the engines. Tools scattered around him. Sparks flew as he adjusted. A small circuit board. Laura watched him with interest. "You're fixing that without reading a manual," she said softly. He smiled without looking up. "Been flying ships longer than I've had scars. You learn by doing." She smiled too small, but real. "I think I forgot what doing feels like." Elias looked up. "Curious," she explained. "As a servant? You don't make choices. You follow. Commands, you survive. That's it. You're not a servant anymore," he said. "I know," she replied, "but sometimes I still feel like I am." Later in the kitchen, Elias handed her a small metal box. She opened it. Inside was a cooking tablet with simple recipes written in both human standard and the alien language she hadn't seen since childhood. She blinked. "How did you?" "I downloaded your people's cooking archives from the Peace Library. Before we left port," Elias said. "Figured you might want to remember more than just fear." Her hands trembled as she held the tablet. Food wasn't just survival for her. People lit was memory, family. Home. She looked up at Elias. "Thank you." He shrugged. "You can teach me how to cook something if you like." She smiled again. "Bigger this time, then I'll start with sweetbread stew." It was my father's favorite. The kitchen filled with strange smells, spicy, sweet, and warm. Laura moved between cabinets, mixing things with confidence she didn't know she still had. Elias watched her from the doorway. Arms crossed. "You look different when you cook," he said. She paused. "How?" "Alive." She turned and gave him a look. That was a compliment, wasn't it? He smirked. "Don't get used to it." She laughed for the first time in her life. She laughed so hard that she cried. And this time, the tears didn't hurt. Later that night, they ate together. At the table. The stew was too spicy for Elias, but he didn't say anything. Laura noticed and raised an eyebrow. "Be honest," he coughed. "I'm sweating fire." She burst out laughing again. "You humans can't handle anything fun," she teased. He grinned. "You're not wrong." After dinner, they cleaned the table together. No commands, no duties. Just two people sharing quiet work. "I never thought I'd be here," Laura said softly. "On a ship, cooking again, with someone who doesn't hurt me." Elias nodded. "Freedom's strange at first." "I don't want to lose it," she whispered. His smile faded slightly. "Then we need to be ready, so it might try to slip away." She frowned. "What do you mean?" Elias tapped a small, blinking light on the ship's control panel. "Encrypted message came through 2 hours ago," he said. "I didn't want to ruin dinner." Laura's body stiffened. Who? Is it from? Elias brought the screen closer. It's a bounty code. Someone has placed a tracker alert using your syndicate mark. No location yet, but someone is looking. Laura's heart sank. They're coming. Elias nodded. Not yet, but soon. She closed her eyes. I should leave. You've already done too much for me. No, Elias said firmly. You are not the problem. They are. But if they find me, they'll have to get through me first. Laura opened her eyes. You keep saying that, but why? Why risk your life for someone you barely know? Elias looked her straight in the eyes. Because everyone deserves someone who believes in them, even once. The room went quiet. Then Laura asked, Can I stay with you, even when they come? Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. You're not staying with me, Laura. You're staying as you. She smiled again, this time without pain behind it. That night, Laura sat by the window once more. But now, she didn't watch the stars with fear. She watched with hope, because someone had taught her how to laugh again, and the girl who once lived in silence was beginning to find her voice. The alarm sounded in the middle of the night. Red lights blinked across the ship's hallway. Laura shot up from bed, heart pounding. Her hands reached for the blanket, confused, panicked, but not frozen. Not this time. She ran to the control room, where Elias was already wide awake, seated, calm. Too calm. On the screen, 3 small ships glowed red, fast and armed, headed straight for them. They're here, he said simply. The Sorok. Laura whispered. He nodded. They sent trackers. Fast hunters. Not big, but deadly. Laura clenched her fists. They found me. No, Elias corrected. They found us. The ship shook. One of the enemy ships fired a warning shot across the hull. Sparks flew. Laura stumbled, but Elias caught her. I need you in the back, he said. Lock the med bay. Stay low. I'm not hiding, Laura said quickly. This isn't about hiding. It's about staying alive while I do the shooting. But Laura didn't move. I'm not scared of them anymore, she said. Elias looked at her, searching her eyes. He nodded, then suit up. Minutes later, Laura stood behind Elias. In the weapons bay, her hands on the energy shield controls. Her heartbeat was fast but steady. Her fingers trembled, but not from fear, from focus. The first enemy ship tried docking. Elias fired. It exploded before it touched the hull. 2 left. He muttered. The second ship dropped a small drone. Into their airlock system, Laura saw it on the radar. They're inside. Elias grabbed his pulse pistol. You stay here. Close all doors behind me. But Laura stepped forward. No, she said. I'm going with you. They moved through the halls together, Elias in front, Laura right behind. She carried a stun rod, her breathing sharp but her feet quick. The lights flickered, then a noise, a hiss. Metal grinding. One of the doors opened. A Sorok hunter stepped through. Black armor, masked face. 2 arms, 1 bladed. It charged Elias. Aimed, but the creature was fast. Laura didn't think. She acted with a shout. She slammed her stun rod into the hunter's side. The spark hit deep. The creature twitched, then Elias finished it with 1 clean shot to the chest. Smoke rose. Elias turned to her. You're faster than I expected. I don't freeze anymore, she replied. But there was no time to smile. The last ship wasn't docking. It was charging something. Laura looked at the outside monitor. They're powering a plasma torpedo, she said. That can break through our core. Elias moved to the pilot's seat. Then we need to take them out first. But Laura saw something else, something Elias didn't. A small blinking light behind the console. A transmitter. It's a beacon. she whispered. Someone placed a hidden beacon on the ship. That's how they found us. Elias looked at it, the blinking red signal. They were always going to come, he said. No matter where we ran. Laura pulled out the scanner. It showed the source of the beacon. Her body went cold. It's inside me, she said. They didn't just brand me, they implanted a tracker. Elias's hands curled into fists. We remove it. Now. He turned the ship sharply, avoiding the torpedo blast. Can you handle pain? He asked. Laura didn't blink. I've survived worse. In the medbay, Laura lay flat on the table. As Elias prepared the scanner and the removal tool, the beacon was hidden near her. Right shoulder buried under the skin and muscle. He injected a local numbing shot, but even then, the removal wasn't easy. She clenched her teeth, gripping the edge of the table. It's almost out. Elias said, then click, the beacon dropped into a sealed box. No more signal, no more blinking. Laura breathed out hard. I feel lighter, she whispered. You are, Elias said. You're free again. But they weren't safe yet. Elias returned to the pilot's seat. The final Sirach ship was pulling back, realizing their signal was gone. Confused, retreating. Elias locked onto it. Laura, you want to press the button? He asked, pointing to the missile command. She looked at him, then pressed it. The rocket shot. Forward boom. The last ship exploded into fire and dust. The ship shook. But no alarms followed, only silence. Real silence. Laura sat down, breathing heavy. They'll send more, she said. Yes, Elias agreed. But now, they'll know who they're dealing with. She looked at him, eyes steady. I'm not prey anymore. No, Elias replied. Now, you're fire. Asterisk, the ship drifted quietly through safe space again. The stars outside no longer looked like cold lights to Laura. They looked open, like roads. Roads that led to futures she never thought possible. She sat beside Elias in the cockpit, still holding a small bandage over her shoulder where the tracker had been removed. Her body ached, but her heart felt strong. They had survived. But what came next? Elias stared at the empty radar screen. They'll send more. Laura nodded. Let them. He glanced at her. You've changed? I had to, she said. I'm not who I was when you found me. No, Elias replied. Now you stand taller. Speak louder. Fight harder. She smiled faintly. Freedom does that. Then her face grew serious. But Elias. Freedom isn't enough anymore. Raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? I've seen others like me. In chains, in pain, still waiting for someone to free them. But what if no one comes? Elias stayed silent. I was lucky, she continued. You found me. But most don't get that chance. Elias leaned back. You're thinking about going back. I'm thinking about fighting back. The ship arrived at a neutral trading outpost on the edge of both human and alien territories. A quiet place, no war, no slaves, just travelers and silence. Elias needed parts. Laura needed space to think. She walked through the market with cautious steps. Some aliens gave her strange looks. A few recognized her species and looked away. A few watched her closely, eyes narrowing. One merchanted female Trascan approached her quietly. You're not a servant, the woman said, almost surprised. No. Laura replied calmly. The merchant lowered her head. Good. We need more of you. Back on the ship. Elias was talking to someone on a secure line, an old friend, a woman named Captain Reyna. She's strong, Elias said. Brave, but I think she's about to make a dangerous choice. Reyna's voice crackled through the speaker. Dangerous doesn't mean wrong. I know, Elias said. But she's not just fighting for herself now. She wants to fight for others. Yes, Reyna was quiet for a moment. Then maybe it's time she met others like her. That night, Laura returned to the ship with something wrapped in cloth. A small, silver badge. A symbol. The sign of a forgotten rebellion. The mark of a group that once fought against the syndicates before they were crushed. She placed it on the table in front of Elias. "I'm not just Laura anymore," she said. He raised an eyebrow. "Who are you now?" A voice. A warning. A fighter. "You're not ready," Elias warned. "I wasn't ready when I ran. I wasn't ready when I was branded. I wasn't ready when they came for us, but I survived. I learned, and now I decide who I am." Elias looked at Hurley, looked, and then he nodded. "Then we fight together." A message came from Reyna the next day, encrypted. Short, "Meet at Drift Station. We have others, survivors, fighters, former slaves. The fire is growing again." Laura read the message 3 times. She didn't feel fear. She felt purpose, as the ship prepared for flight again. Laura stood by the mirror in her room. She wore no collar now. No scars were visible. But her past still lived inside her. She touched the place where the brand used to burn. Not in pain, but in memory. And then she picked up a tool and carved a new mark. A symbol of freedom. A symbol she chose in the cockpit. Elias looked at her as she entered. "You ready?" She smiled. "I've never been readier. Once we go down this road." Elias said, "There's no going back." Laura looked out the window at the stars. "Good, because I'm not going back." Drift Station floated silently above a dead moon. Half forgotten, mostly broken, but still alive in secret. Elias's ship approached the old hangar slowly. Lights dimmed. A coded signal blinked from the station. Green. Safe. Laura stood behind him in the cockpit, arms crossed, her silver blue hair tied back now. Her eyes didn't flinch anymore. She looked like someone who belonged in command. "You don't have to speak when we get inside," Elias told her. But she answered, "I think it's time I do." Inside the station, the air was thick with old fuel, rust, and quiet whispers. It wasn't a military base. Not yet. But it wasn't weak either. People filled the shadows. Humans, aliens, even hybrids. Some had weapons. Others wore scars. Both. On their bodies and their souls. They all turned when Laura entered. Some stared at her. Not with pity, but with curiosity. One man leaned in and whispered to his friend, "Is that her? The branded one who broke free. She killed 3 hunters," another said, "and burned the ship." "Is it true she carved a new mark over the old one?" Laura ignored the whispers. She walked straight ahead. Elias at her side. Captain. Reyna was waiting, tall, broad-shouldered, and older than she looked. Her cybernetic arm clicked as she folded it. "You must be Laura," Reyna said. Laura nodded. "And you must be the fire Elias told me about." Reyna smiled faintly. "Not fire. A spark. The fire's what comes next." She looked Laura over. "You've been through it." "I'm still going through it," Laura said. "But I'm not running anymore." Reyna motioned to a door behind her. "Then come in. Others are waiting." In the main hall, a circle of survivors sat around a low table. A few were once slaves. Some were former bounty hunters who'd turned. All of them had lost something. When Laura entered, the room went still. She stepped forward. "My name is Laura," she said, her voice calm but strong. "I was once property, a servant, a number." She held up the badge she had found, now shaped into a pendant on her chest. "But I chose a new name. I chose my voice, and I choose to fight." She looked around the room. Not for revenge, not just to survive, but for those still wearing chains. A silence followed. Then, slowly, One by one, they began to nod. A voice from the back called out, "Then you're not just free, Laura. You're ours now." Later that night, the group met in the war room. Holograms lit the space maps, data, enemy bases, known slave routes. Reyna stood beside Elias and Laura. "We've been hitting supply lines," she said, "cutting small chains. But with your intel, Laura, we can do more." Laura nodded. The Sorak base near the frozen moon of Tyros is where they hold newly captured slaves. It's heavily guarded, but not impossible. Elias frowned. It's where they branded her. Laura's voice didn't shake. "It's where I lost everything." Reyna turned to her. "And you want to go back?" Laura's eyes burned with fire. "No. I want to take it back." The plan was simple but dangerous. Laura would lead a small team into the base from underground vents. Disable the shield, then signal the fighters above. Elias tried to protest. "Let me go first." But Laura only smiled. "You gave me freedom," she said. "Now, let me use it." The raid began at midnight. Snow fell softly across the steel towers of the Tyros facility. Under the cold surface, Laura crawled through old pipes, frost covering her hands, breath tight in her throat. Behind her, 2 other former slaves followed, eyes focused, hearts ready. They reached the core shield room. Laura placed the charges. Light blinked red. Then green dot. She activated her comm. "Signal is live," she said above. The fighters dropped from the sky like lightning. Explosions rocked the towers. The slaves inside ran to the gates only to find them open. Guards were overrun. Freedom came. Not with words, but with fire. Inside the command tower, Laura found the old brand machine, the one that burned her long ago. She stared at it. She could destroy it, but she did something else. She carved a new word into the metal. Frame, free. Then she walked away as it burned. Back on the ship, safe again, Elias greeted her with a tight nod. "You did it." "No," Laura said, breathing hard. "We did it." Reyna entered behind her. "You led the charge, Laura. You gave them hope." Laura looked down. "I just gave them what you gave me." Reyna placed something in Laura's hand, a new badge, not of rebellion, but of leadership. "You're not a servant, a victim, or even just a fighter anymore," Reyna said. "You're a symbol." That night, Laura sat alone at the edge of the station, looking out at space. So much to do, so many still waiting. But now, she wasn't just one girl with a broken past. She was Laura, the girl who chose her own name, and no one would ever take it from her again.